All right, round one here. Do we have a keep? Kind of rough. We're on the draw, so if we draw one mountain, we at least have a 3-drop, and we're gonna get into it. But right now, all I'm casting is Magma Spray. And again, I want lands, but I have a lot of lands in my deck, right? So no, we should be able to draw a land, and more than likely a mountain in the fairly near future. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and Magma Spray that guy right away. Puts way too much pressure on us in the early game. Not the land I wanted, but still, land is good. Ooh, Triton Fortune Hunter, I care a little bit less about. Yay! Okay, Two-Headed Cerberus or Bolt of Kuranos? Remember, I just want to go late. I don't want my opponent to get big on this. Yeah, let's go ahead and do the Bolt. We have the Starfall for later. And we're going to pretty much get to that mana. Fall of the Hammer, I will also grab. So next turn we'll have our Cyclops down and a Fall of the Hammer to take out another dude. And looks like we're just going to get on the removal game plan. Gotta be a little worried about green getting something bigger than I can deal with. But for now, I'm okay. We'll rock this guy out. We'll probably just Starfall or Fall of the Hammer this guy before it gets untapped. Gotta be careful falling the hammering if my opponent has mana open. Like that's a temple that comes in tapped here. I don't like the scry, but that means a 5-drop isn't coming down, so I'm not seeing like a Nessian Asp or something. No blocks. In the Eidolon. Alright, so this is a little bit tricky. I so want to follow the hammer, but a bounce spell or something totally gets me. I guess because I have the Baleful Eidolon now, I don't care as much about this guy. So yeah, we'll just play the Baleful Eidolon on its own, and we'll keep Fall of the Hammer up. So it has Coordinate Assault, which is cool because the first strike. If my opponent flashes in a creature, do I just follow the hammer? Like the flyer? I think I do. Consign any number of target artifacts and or enchantments. Alright, so I think I do go ahead and fall right now because there's no bounce here. And I do want to get this Fairies Band Trumper off the table before it gets too big. Choose a creature you control to deal damage. You are going to deal damage to you and kill the Fairies Band Trumper. So we've just done a bunch of 1-for-1s, but I at least have Iltimate Cyclops on the table. This is what I'm worried about, the big dude. Fairies Band Raiders, that's okay, not great. Be a little hard for me to race if I don't draw more lands. Got a land, so that's cool. And then... yeah, we'll just play our Cerberus, which isn't awesome, but we might be able to get a Coordinated Assault down. I can't imagine my opponent doing anything that would tap out before combat, so don't see that actually happening. Yeah, I can't think of a single card that my opponent would be playing that wouldn't pump this guy big enough. I don't like this position. My opponent has the biggest thing on the board, or in colors that can get really big, scary stuff down. Ooh, Spire Spine. 6. So 3, 4. I'm trying to think if I can kill it with a block here. My opponent has blue and green up, so there are combat tricks, but I almost feel like that my opponent doesn't have that. So 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I think I'm going to go for it here with the Coordinated Assault. I think it's worth it. There are tricks that get me. Don't get me wrong. But I think it's unlikely that my opponent has them. Like an Aspect of Hydra or something. Which even then, at least there are trades that go down. Cool, we got the big eye off the board. Also, we'll get to eat it, the Spire Spine with our two-headed Cerberus now. I might just... Yeah, I could get greedy. And use a Starfall and bash in, but I think instead we're just going to make my opponent just kill it. My opponent doesn't have the trick, so it's gone. Can't attack with a Cyclops because my opponent would offer that trade. Alright, so that worked pretty well for us. We got a little bit lucky that my opponent did do something. I was trying to think of a card that my opponent could tap out that wouldn't be bad for us. Or, couldn't think of it, and my opponent just showed it to me, so that's cool. That's great, so we get to go ahead and... I guess just attack with our big dudes? Because there's nothing I'm worried about with Warwing Siren getting big enough. Yeah, we'll just keep the Jared Cerberus back. I assume my opponent's out of gas here. Could have gone in with the two-headed Cerberus, but if there was like a little mini +2/+2 action, I didn't want to risk it. My opponent doesn't need to show me the panoply for any reason, but okay. I will take it. Do you see any 1 toughness dudes I care about? Not really. This does make my guy's stuff a little bit bigger. So Consigned to Dust was the only card I saw that worries me, because I do actually have a number of enchantments. My opponent has seen all of my removal spells, basically. And we did hit the ones that we wanted to hit. I think we're keeping it the same way. I don't think Fearsome Temper is going to get us there, really. I do think my opponent, this is like a tough matchup for me. I think my opponent with like the big beefy guys has a lot of things that aren't going to be great. So I'm just trying to think if there's like one of my other like removal spells. I definitely want to keep the Riddle in to be able to deal with the big guy. Bolt seems to be very good with my Baleful Eidolons, but... Or I mean, I follow the Hammer with the Baleful Eidolons, but that's kind of obvious. Do I want Cast in the Darkness? I mean, it buys me some time. My opponent's going at the ground, allows me to keep a race going. Yeah, I think I'm just going to keep the same way. That may not be right. I definitely don't want the Scouring Sands, but I wonder if the Fearsome Temper might just be relevant. I'm kind of effectively already mold, because it's going to be forever till I get this. But, I mean, I have a 2-drop, I have lands, it's kind of what my deck needs, right? So, I'm going to keep it. I just don't have much better hands to draw into, I don't think. And hey, even if I'm just playing, you know, turn 6 Gluttonous Cyclops, that's like, okay. Probably just going to run this into whatever my opponent plays. This is a Warwing Siren. But offer the trade. Yeah, I'll offer the trade. Again, I want to go late, so that's fine. Maybe now I won't. What do I want to do? Yeah, instead we're just going to Magma Spray, and then attack in and Scry. Because I definitely want the Scry right now. Also, my opponent playing that means my opponent wanted to make that trade, which means I probably don't. Sad that I have to keep lands on top, but I do want my first swamp right now. And I mean, like I said, I have a lot of things to do with my lands, so that's okay. Let's see if my opponent has Flash Creature here. Two-headed Cerberus doesn't do a lot, but it is a creature. We're going to put it on the bottom. I mean, I don't want to draw another land, but if I flood out a little bit, it's kind of okay. Alright, so my opponent doesn't have anything. Still doesn't have anything. Must be a little flooded him or herself. Flash Creature. Starfall definitely want at this stage. Yeah, I wouldn't mind another Swamp, but at least it's a relevant spell that'll probably take out anything besides that 5/5. But then I have my Gluttonous Cyclops coming down soon. Is this it? Yep, Fairies Band Raiders. We can tangle and tussle with that dude. Not super worried about it since we got to our late game. Probably will just take take damage. My opponent wants to try this race. My opponent's shown that there's not a whole lot else that my opponent wants to be trading off with the Sigiled Skink, so there must be more like that type of card. Now I'm a little bit worried. Does my opponent want to do the race? I mean, getting up to 8 mana is definitely worrisome with a Thassa's Ire. I don't have Enchantment Hate. And once that happens, I need way more creatures to start busting out here. It looks like my opponent was going to tap down the Cyclops and try to bash in. And is now considering whether or not that is a good idea or not. I think I would like that. I think I want to get this race started because it means I get a crack back for 7. Putting my opponent down to lethal, and then my opponent has to kind of invest in mana. You know, probably won't be able to make a bunch of 3/3s. Yeah, so my opponent's considering. Alright, so my opponent just wants to play the defense game. That's okay with me. Not stoked for Burnished Heart, but it's a creature. So we'll play our land. And we'll attack in if my opponent lets me. I don't think my opponent's going to. I think my opponent's just looking to stabilize here. Yeah, exactly. So instead, yeah, we'll play Burnished Heart. Guess I could attack with a Skink and 2-for-1 myself. That seems kind of like a waste. Certainly an option, though. Argument to do the Monstrosity, but since the Ire's out, it means that I want to kind of actually go wide, not big. Ooh, and with double Ire out, that's going to be a little bit scary. Have to decide if I actually want to crack the Burnished Heart to get my second Swamp, or just get it drawn naturally. I think I do. I do want it, just because the Keepsake Organ's so good. That I do need the double black. I really do. Is there any reason? Yeah, in case I draw a black spell, I might want to have the triple black. I do have things I can sink red mana into, but it's more likely that I want that other black since I have so much mana out right now. Coordinate Assault's good. I assume both my guys get tapped here. Oh, I'm definitely going to attack in. If there's a combat check or something that takes the Sigiled Skink out, I'm okay with that. And at least get the Scry trigger, which is actually pretty good at this point in the game. It's kind of going to be like drawing a card, I think. I mean, if there's a land on top, then it definitely will be. I've got my lands. I'm good on lands, my friend. I like having Keepsake Gorgon to block and then Coordinated Assault. Oh yeah, I can untap too. I always think it's like just tapping. Well, that was silly of me. Yeah, but now it does allow me to do a Starfall. It 2-for-1s myself, but I'm already losing one. But it also gets my opponent's like biggest thing off the table, so I'm okay with that. Not great, but I'm okay with it. I could 2-for-1 with a Starfall and a Coordinated Assault. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus have the Coordinated Assault. But I think I just want to do Starfall, let the damage go down, and then follow up with the Keepsake Gorgon, which I have enough mana to. That I definitely want. Well, maybe I don't. I think I want more pressure. Maybe that was wrong. Shoot. I was impulsed by a card that I like so much. Alright, let me just think this through again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do the Starfall. Kill a Fairies Band Raider. If I want to do the Coordinated Assault, I get to keep my Sigiled Skink, which is good, but I'm going to play the Gorgon, which I think I prefer. The Scry is pretty relevant, but I also think Coordinated Assault is going to be quite nice here. Definitely doing Starfall. I actually think I want the Sigiled Skink around. It can get outclassed pretty quickly, but my opponent doesn't have a whole lot to outclass it. And I have the removal spell with Keepsake Gorgon coming down later. It's about I don't get on the board, but the fact that like I just want more creatures out in order to combat this Thassa's Ire is like really important as we go in late game. Because having two creatures that can be cracked down all the time with Thassa's Ire is not awesome. And my opponent has like tricks in the deck that make getting creatures off the table really good for me. I mean, Thassa's Ire is just going to take over this game, so I kind of need to close it out somewhat quickly. I don't know how to do that necessarily. My opponent has to start drawing into some kind of action soon, which is worrisome. Good news is, like, playing creatures means there's less Thassa's Ire activations, which means my opponent has a lot of opportunity for misplays and, like, trying to prioritize the Ire. And the fact that the Cyclops is here means that at least it has to be at least 4 mana, like, held up every turn. Trying Fortune Hunter isn't a huge deal. So I think I do offer a trade here. I don't want my opponent to be drawing cards. And I do feel like if I can clear the board, then things are kind of okay. Cyclops gets tapped, of course. Scry is important. We just drew ourselves a card. Let's see if my opponent has a combat trick. Probably does. No, no blocks. Playing around my combat tricks. We'll play the Gorgon and the Baleful Eidolon on its own. Because again, Thassa's Ire means we want to go wide. My opponent can hit for 2, but we're ahead on the race, so I'm not worried about my opponent tapping offensively. Need to pay attention to the defensive tap. You know, maybe this was a good mistake I made earlier when I attacked with a Skink and I didn't see that my opponent could untap. I just wasn't thinking about the untap part of Thassa's Ire. Because getting that guy off the board has actually kind of been really nice. Even though it was a 2-for-1, I think it worked out pretty okay. Like, I might have wanted to have considered that and actually tried to go on that line. And try to have made that happen. Ooh, well, I lose flying. Don't think that matters too much. Alright, so we can kill the Triton Fortune Hunter here, as well as the Archetype afterwards. Let's see which one my opponent wants to tap down, if any. Oh. So my opponent wants to let me attack here. What is there in my opponent's hand? I don't really want my Eidolon to go into the Triton Fortune Hunter, but I don't think I can not attack, right? If my opponent's letting me. And the Infusion will kill the Hunter if it stays alive anyway. We've got some... Yeah, we're just going for it right now. What does my opponent have here? It's gotta be like a Panoply or something. But with Keepsake Gorgon and Glen Cyclops threatening some monstrosity, we're in pretty good shape. And this is really nice. I think I do want Forged Ochre Dragon. Please don't have something that shuffles my deck. Alright, so what is happening here? So blocking here, blocking there. Is my opponent just forcing me to do a monstrosity somewhere? Well, we're gonna do monstrosity on the Cyclops, and then follow up with an infusion, I think. This is probably a bounce spell, right? I can only imagine. But if my opponent's bouncing, then my opponent's losing 2 cards. Or is just trying to stay alive? Maybe thinking that it can lock down. My opponent can lock it down. the board with the ire right now. But I have 2 removal spells. I'm drawing a dragon. I have burn. Only 1 piece of burn. No, does magma spray hit? Yeah, it's the creature. All I have is the bolt. And I'd be very weird if I was my opponent doing that. Alright, I'm pleased with that outcome. Again, my opponent, with so much land, can keep these guys locked down, but at 2 life, any creature starts becoming a lethal creature, so if I can just keep drawing, even after that dragon, if the dragon gets dealt with somehow, we should be in good shape. And any really scary spell, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand and return target... Okay, so my opponent's getting some cards back. That makes sense. But see, if that's the case now, my opponent has to spend a lot of mana and take a lot of time to do all that. And I still have ways to kill what my opponent's bringing back. What other creature did you get? Archetype, yes, but... Archetype? I'm confused. Return enter. I think my opponent had a misclick there. My opponent only returned the archetype and must have chosen that as its creature for the archetype, which is odd. Yeah, so this is happening right now. So these guys get tapped down. If my opponent plays the archetype, I don't think there's enough mana to block all the dudes. Sorai Centaur. Gonna get infused here. It's gotta be game though, right? I'm gonna play conservatively, attack with everybody. My opponent's doing this main phase. I think my opponent's just trying to chump for a turn? Because this is lethal now. Could have just gone with the bolt, of course. But this allows me to play around, like, I don't know, more cards. Well, maybe I don't know what they are. Can my opponent have life gain or something? Maybe not. I just like doing on board, not showing cards. I think that's just my proclivity. But I guess to kind of next level myself, I should start trying to pay attention to if there really was a reason to not show the bolt. I don't know. Anyway, yay, on to round 2.